Hello everyone, I'm Bill Hammond and I actually paid to see this. And welcome back one last time to this year's Oscar Blitz, where I break down every category and every nominee at the 97th Academy Awards. Tonight, as we do every year, we end the analysis with the biggest prize of the season, Best Picture. 10 films are vying for the highest honor in film, and as such, the voting is different than normal. In every other category, voters just pick a favorite and whoever has the most votes wins. However, with Best Picture, it's a ranked choice system, with members encouraged to rank all the nominees from 1 to 10, though they technically only have to vote for number 1 in order for the ballot to count. So, that's what I'm going to do here. I'm going to present my analysis as I rank the choices. Also, if you're new to this, since the award technically goes to the producers of the film, I judge this in terms of what I think is the best overall production, including all relevant elements. So what I do is rank each film by its various aspects, assigning them between 1 and 10 points and weighting them by how public-facing they are in terms of overall enjoyment. The convoluted formula is as follows. Acting is most important, so it counts 3 times. Writing and direction both count twice, and the various artistic and technical elements each count once. I also assign one set of 10 points based on my own personal preference and enjoyment of each film, and I use that as a tiebreaker in the final score just in case. This allows for up to 100 points for each of the candidates to determine my pick. Sound good? Then let's not waste any more time and get to the rankings. In 10th place, because the rules say I can't rate it any lower, is Emilia Perez, Pascal Cocheteau, and Jacques Audiard. You know it's insulting. You know it's lazy. You know the performances are mediocre at best. You know the songs are terrible. From the very beginning, this was the worst kind of weaponized Oscar bait, meticulously designed to check off Academy boxes without any actual substance to any of it, all while denigrating the trans experience in a time when the entire community is under attack and using Mexico's ongoing national tragedy of cartel violence as fodder for a freaking musical. Imagine how pissed off you'd be if, say, Luxembourg decided to do a musical about school shootings or 9/11. That's how awful this is. The film ranks dead last in every aspect except the artistic, because I kinda like the makeup job done on Benitez, and Mi Camino was the only song I didn't despise. That gets it up to 9th. Among all Oscar-nominated films this year, it ranks 3rd from last in terms of critical score on Rotten Tomatoes. Its audience score is a woeful 17%, and on a personal note, out of the 130 feature films I saw for 2024, it ranks 123rd. It'll win a few awards to save face, but if this were to win Best Picture, it'd be the end of the Academy's cultural relevance. Final score, 11 out of 100, 1 point above the absolute minimum. 9th place goes to Wicked Part 1, Mark Platt, producer. You might think I hate this film, but that's not the case. I like it just fine, but that's the problem. It's just fine. It's a good movie, but far from a great one, and it wasn't nearly worth the 8 months of endless advertising and corporate tie-ins, to the point that the marketing budget was the same as the actual production budget, $150 million. It's the most overhyped movie of the year, which I suppose is okay for box office, but not for the Oscars. It ranks 9th pretty much across the board, not because the various elements are necessarily bad, but because everyone else is simply better. That being said, of course the writing is near the bottom because they were only able to fit half of the film into the runtime of the musical, which is just bad pacing and too much padding. It does rise to 6th place for the artistic elements due to some really creative world building and a killer score. In the end, it gets 23 out of a possible 100 points. I am looking forward to seeing how it all wraps up, but this is just not Best Picture material. In 8th place is I'm Still Here, Maria Carlota Bruno and Rodrigo Teixeira. I really enjoyed I'm Still Here, but I have to say this feels like a filler nomination. The movie's good, but it's very straightforward and even kind of boring in parts. It's very accessible to American audiences, but that's another way of saying it's formulaic. Fernanda Torres definitely earns her Best Actress nomination, and the script is solid. The technical elements are also on point, helping to create a believable story of perseverance in the face of dictatorship. Again, though, everything else is just better all around. The film ranks 8th in acting and directing, 5th in writing, and 7th as far as tech and my personal preference, but it's dead last in the artistic category. Not because it's bad, but because there just was a lack of relevant elements, giving it a final score of 36. Coming in at number 7 is Nickel Boys, Dee Dee Gardner, Jeremy Kleiner, and Jocelyn Barnes. If the Academy had its act together, this would have a much better profile to win. Instead, it joins Past Lives and Women Talking as the third straight Best Picture nominee that's only up for its screenplay. The script is fantastic, ranking 4th in this bunch, but it should be up for far more. I rank it 8th on artistic grounds as the costuming and production design deserved attention, and 5th in technicals thanks to the innovative use of first-person cinematography, which really helps you immerse yourself in this tragic story. This is a film that deserved so much more, but sadly it'll be relegated to just being a curious footnote, earning 48 points out of a possible 100. In 6th place is A Complete Unknown, Fred Berger, James Mangold, and Alex Heineman. From here on out, everything is what I'd consider a worthy winner, as they each excel in at least one element and have a more complete overall profile from the bottom 4. A Complete Unknown is the least of these true contenders, mostly because it's the safest and least essential of the bunch. That's not always a bad thing, but in a year where the general output from Hollywood was weak, you've got to find a way to stand out other than just being pure entertainment, which this very much is. It ranks 4th in acting due to a very strong ensemble, as well as in technicals for the sound design, and my personal enjoyment. It also ranks 5th in directing, but it slips all the way to 8th in writing thanks to a very run-of-the-mill music biopic script. Don't get me wrong, I loved it, but I do recognize the flaws, and when you're going for Best Picture, even the tiniest imperfections can spell doom. It finishes with 57 points, once again showing that if we cut back to just 5 nominees in this field, we probably wouldn't miss anything, so long as it's the correct 5. 5th place goes to The Brutalist, Nick Gordon, Brian Young, Andrew Morrison, DJ Guggenheim, and Brady Corbet. The early frontrunner when award season started, The Brutalist has clearly lost its momentum in the past few weeks, and it's easy to see why. The film, while masterfully made and with the second strongest acting ensemble, is just far too long for the story it's trying to tell, and despite that it has multiple plot holes, dropping the writing to 7th place, and creating enough fatigue in the viewer that it only rose to 8th on my personal list. It's also 8th in technicals and only 4th in art, a category where it should have been at the top, because of the use of generative artificial intelligence when it came to certain props and the sound design. Bad form and somewhat ironic, given that The Brutalist is a film about how immigrants are denigrated and exploited as cheap labor. Final score, 58, just nudging out A Complete Unknown for a spot in the top 5. Just missing my podium in 4th place is Anora, Alex Coco, Samantha Kwan, and Sean Baker. Momentum has definitely shifted into Anora's favor over the last couple of weeks, and if it wins, it'll be the first film about a sex worker to win the top prize since 1969's Midnight Cowboy, the first and only X-rated Best Picture. Funnily enough, the stars of that movie from 55 years ago, Jon Voight and Dustin Hoffman, were part of one of the worst films of 2024, Megalopolis, which is up for a ton of Razzie Awards. Funny how the world works. Anyway, Anora ranks 7th as far as acting is concerned, mostly because there were just so many great performances last year, and on the whole, this one is just the nominated Mikey Madison and Yura Borisov truly shining. Still, Sean Baker makes up a lot of ground, with his directing and writing each ranking 3rd. He truly knows how to tell empathetic and human stories about this often derided sector of the population. With 5th place spots for art and my personal ranking, and a 6th place finish in technicals due to Baker's really strong editing, Anora gets a final score of 61, and I will be more than happy if it takes home the win. Bronze medal time, with 3rd place going to Dune Part 2, Mary Perrant, Cale Boyder, Tanya LaPointe, and Denis Villeneuve. So, if I docked Wicked for only being half a movie, why is Dune on the podium for being essentially the second half of its own story? Well, because the 2 Dune films are properly self-contained. Yes, we always knew there was a hope of a second entry and maybe even a third, but Denis Villeneuve always made sure that it was dependent on audience and critical reaction, and only if he could properly form the world. He went to great lengths to ensure that if the series never took off, that each installment would be entirely its own story. This is a proper sequel, not a continuation of a cliffhanger. That's the difference. This is Lord of the Rings, and Wicked is Mockingjay. As before, the artistic and technical achievements are astounding, ranking second in each discipline. Villeneuve's deft directorial touch ranks fourth overall, and the expanded acting ensemble is solidly in fifth. As the only Best Picture nominee to come out before September of last year, this film pretty much carried the banner for all of 2024 cinema until the studios saw fit to release actual good movies. It was my personal number one for much of the year, and it still held on to finish in my top 10 when it was all said and done, and third for this set of nominees. It probably won't win despite earning 68 points, but if we never go to Arrakis again, we can definitely say Villeneuve stuck the landing. The runner-up in second place is Conclave, Tessa Ross, Juliette Howe, and Michael A. Jackman. When I went in to see this, I expected an intriguing bit of thrills about the secrecy surrounding one of the oldest and most consequential ceremonies in the world. What I got was a tense mystery with some incredible performances, ending with the first truly legitimate shock I've had in a twist ending in decades. M. Night Shyamalan ain't got nothing on Conclave. Edward Berger took what is seen as the most solemn and curious tradition on Earth and turned it into the political thriller of the year. A testament to empathy and grace, while also teaching the value of dishonesty for the greater good. A nuance I honestly didn't think he could pull off after the All Quiet on the Western Front remake. The film boasts the strongest acting ensemble of the bunch, ranks second in terms of directing and writing, and third in artistic and technical achievement. When Oscar nominations were announced, I was fairly certain that this would be my pick. It was number one amongst the candidates when it came out, and I remember sitting in the theater thinking that it would take something amazing to beat it. Its final score of 91 reflects that sentiment, but here's the thing, I was right. Something amazing did come along. Finally, if I had a vote, first place would go to The Substance, Coralie Farja, Tim Bevan, and Eric Fellner. I was curious about this film when it came out back in September, but I missed out on the first run because I was just bogged down with other stuff. When I finally did see it after nominations came out, I did something I haven't done since I was a child. I stood up, lifted my leg, and tried to force it backwards so that the heel could kick myself in my own ass. I tried to literally kick myself for not seeing this sooner. Oh my god, this is a masterpiece. Between this and Conclave, this is what I'm talking about when I say that Best Picture should go to the most complete production, the most accomplished across the board. The top 6 are all worthy, but it's a huge jump from third place to the top 2 because of how thoroughly these films do their job. Coralie Farja created an insane satire of the entertainment industry and the disposability of women based on their perceived sex appeal, employing some of the best body horror and practical effects I've ever seen. The writing is damn near perfect, only A Real Pain did better in my eyes, and it's not nominated here. The makeup, production design, costuming, cinematography, and editing are all superb, and Farja's expert hands guide this freakish exercise with a strange but realistic tenderness not seen since The Elephant Man or Freaks. If heaven exists, both Todd Browning and David Lynch are looking down with smiles on their faces. This film takes the top spot in every category save one, which is acting. It ranks third there only because the ensemble is down to just 3 performers, though they're all stellar. Demi Moore deserves Best Actress, Margaret Qualley should have gotten a Supporting Actress nomination, and Dennis Quaid makes for an all-too-convincing Harvey Weinstein caricature. In a year that left me wanting on so many cinematic fronts, The Substance is about as close to perfect as you can get. Final score, 94. So there you have it. If I could cast a vote at this year's Oscars, that's how it would go. But what do you think? Do you agree with my rankings? Or do you think I should be publicly flogged for ranking Wicked so low? Let me know in the comments down below. If you made it this far, please consider liking and subscribing, as I love doing this Blitz every year and I truly want it to be entertaining for all of you. Also be sure to bookmark actuallypaid.com to read all the category breakdowns and to keep up with reviews and features all year round. Thank you all for taking this trip with me, and I'll be back soon with more content, including a couple surprises I got up my sleeve. Until next time, everyone, I'm Bill Hammond. I actually paid to see this.
This is the BTRP Media Network.